Good evening. I am Piyush Nayak and I would like to give a brief introduction and hands-on demo about our project CEHD Teacher Certification Manager, which is a complete digitalized tool meant for handling the current manual timesheet logging and approval process of the students. The tool is used to record, maintain, and approve the time logs submitted by the students. The application has been developed in cooperation with the College of Education and Human Development. There are three types of users: students, cooperating teacher, and supervisor. Students report to their cooperating teacher. The cooperating teacher reports to their supervisor. The cooperating teacher only has one student under them each semester. The supervisor may have multiple cooperating teachers under them. The functionalities available to each user will be discussed as follows. The application would record the student's weekly submission of time logs, which would contain data on a daily basis. Once the submission is done by a student, the cooperating teacher in charge of the student would be notified that the student has submitted his or her timesheet. It would then be in his or her discretion whether to approve or reject the timesheet. Once the following has been done, the student would be notified about the result, following which the student can take necessary actions. The cooperating teachers report their respective supervisor, who has access to the portal to monitor the time logs approved or rejected by the cooperating teachers, along with the feature to export the logs as a CSV document. The tools used in the application include AWS RDS to host the Postgres database, Django REST framework, Heroku for application deployment, Behave for behavioral driven development test cases, and CodeClimate to check the code quality. For the backend tables, we have used three tables already present in the system, namely person, EPP program, and EPP student, and have created two new tables, student placements and time logs, for maintaining and tracking our tools produced data in the backend. The poster gives us a brief overview of the project with the help of screenshots of the different views which are being used along with an ER diagram. We can see how the tables are being used to store our required metrics in the bottom left hand corner. Further, we can see the different views associated with our project going forward. They include the user authentication view, the submit timesheet student view, the view submitted timesheet view by the student, the view timesheet co-op teacher view, the approved timesheet co-op teacher view, and the view timesheet supervisor view. Following this, we can also observe a brief overview of the email notification system in place using the screenshots of the approval mail which is sent to the co-op teacher and is triggered once a student submits his timesheet, along with the approved and rejected mails which the student receives once the co-op teacher takes his or her action on the submitted time logs. So as you can see, a brief overview of our poster is complete. Next, we will go over to the tool and its features with the help of our deployed application. We'll be using Heroku to see this, and we'll be opening our tool in the form of an web app. The tool comprises of the following features: an user authentication page which the involved individual can use to log in and perform their tasks. It has three options, namely the student view, cooperating teacher view, and the supervisor view to log into. Once logged in, the student is greeted with the Submit Timesheet feature where they can input their time logs for the ongoing week and submit. The data would then be saved in the backend table set up on PostgreSQL. We can also see other details related to the student like the cooperating teacher name, supervisor, UIN, and student email here. The table below is with respect to the current week in consideration, where the students can fill in the notes, give a start time and end time, and the total number of hours. The approved column is no by default when the student fills in the information, and will be changed to yes once the cooperating teacher has approved the timesheets. The student then can click on Save Timesheet to save the data in the backend table, or click on Submit Timesheet to completely submit the timesheet, following which the cooperating teacher would receive an email regarding the same. The student has access to another feature called the View Timesheet feature, which they can access from the Submitted Timesheet feature by clicking on the View Previous Timesheets button. Here they can enter a start date and an end date, following which they can see all of their submitted as well as not submitted time logs at once within the interval. They can also see whether the submitted time logs have been accepted or not. The buttons which I just mentioned are these, where you can choose the dates. By clicking on the View Selected Timesheets button, you would receive the data with respect to these two filters. The hours approved are no for the time being, as the cooperating teacher has not yet accepted the timesheets. Once you are done with this, you can click on Submit Timesheets here to go back to the previous menu. Next, we'll go over the cooperating teachers features. The next feature is that of the approved timesheet by the cooperating teacher. Once logged in, the cooperating teacher can see this screen where the student under his or her supervision's submitted time logs for the previous week would be present. Currently, Wednesday has been chosen as a buffer day where the cooperating teacher has until the Wednesday of this week to approve the timesheets of the last week. They can then approve or reject the timesheets, and the student would then be notified. The data would then be saved in the backend table set up on PostgreSQL. The thing that I mentioned can be seen in the table below, where you can see that the dates are for the last week and the students has submitted the timesheets with the following notes and with a proper start time and end time with the total number of hours. The approved status is currently no, which will become yes once I click on the approved timesheet button, or I can reject it by clicking on the reject timesheet button. The co-op teacher can also check the previous timesheets of the student by clicking on the View Previous Timesheets button. This would prompt them to the view timesheets feature, where they can choose different filters like the semester, year, status, start date and end date to view the timesheets accordingly along with their approval or reject status. The compulsory sections here are to choose the student, and I can give a start date and end date. And click on view submitted timesheets, view selected timesheets. Once that is done, as you can see that we can see all of the timesheets which are associated with the student under the cooperating teacher's supervision. You can see the approved status for the timesheets which have been approved, and the approved status as no for the timesheets which have not been approved. You can click on the home button here to go back to the previous screen. Next, we'll go over the supervisor view. The next feature in consideration is that of the supervisor. The supervisor on logging in is greeted with the View Timesheet Supervisor view. The feature is quite similar to that of the View Timesheet of the cooperating teacher, with some added benefits of selecting the cooperating teacher in consideration and being able to download the queried and filtered result in the form of a CSV file for storage or viewing needs. Let's go over that and check it. Also, you have to give the end date if you have given a start date, and click on view selected timesheets. Once you do that, you can see that all of the details regarding Hal Jordan are being displayed here. This involves all of the students under his supervision, and we can also see the details about the submitted timesheets, which include the student's name, student email, the notes which the student has given, a start date, an end date, total number of hours, and whether the timesheet has been approved or not by the cooperating teacher, which in this case is Hal Jordan. The supervisor can then also click on Export Selected Timesheets button to also download the timesheets in the form of a CSV or comma separated values file. I'm not gonna save it for the time being, but you can do the same. The tool also contains a fully fledged email notification system, which currently has the functionality of approval timesheet notification, which the co-op teacher would receive once the student has submitted his or her timesheet, an approval notifications which the student would receive on the timesheet being successfully approved, and a rejection system which the student would receive if their submitted timesheets have been rejected. Let's go over those emails and see how they look. So this is an example of our approval mail which the student would receive if their timesheets are approved, which would look something like this. Like, hi, the timesheets submitted to the date between 18/4/2022 and 24/4/2022 have been approved by the professor. Another example is that of the rejection timesheet, which the student would get if the timesheets have been rejected, and it would also prompt them to contact their assigned cooperating teacher. The third category is that of the approval timesheet function, which the cooperating teacher would receive once the student has submitted their timesheet, which would include the student's name and the date on which they submitted. They can then go and log in into the portal here and do the necessary task, that is to either accept it or reject it. The completed application has been deployed on Heroku and all of its functionalities are properly tested. Currently the SMTP of choice is Gmail, which might be changed going forward. The necessary tests have been conducted on the tool and has shown a good 93% code coverage. Thank you so much.